Jesus Freak here. So, the work I've been doing on the Super KJV project has been really grueling. And I start to get the feel for, what it must have been like for Alexander Cruden in the 1730s when he worked on his concordance without the benefit of modern technology. And I certainly have the benefit of modern technology here. And it's still grueling. This was a guy who managed to put in 18-hour days for a year, doing practically nothing but working on his project. What that says to me is, he was some sort of neurodivergent. And given that he's historically known for having difficulty relating to people, it's probably autism. We say, there's a lot of people like, oh, autism's just only been this thing for like 20, 30 years. But I was diagnosed 35 years ago. It was certainly a thing then. And even if we didn't have a name for it, we certainly knew it existed. We didn't know why it existed. We still don't know why it exists. We don't know why neurodivergence exists in anyone. And some of the circles I frequent, we call it neurospicy. I always thought that was kind of funny. I've said it before. Autism's like a double-edged sword. You get this increased, vastly increased in some cases, potential for learning, but it wrecks your ability to relate to other people. No doubt there's some reason that it keeps popping up. That you keep having people who just don't think like everyone else because our heads aren't screwed on right, so to speak. It's really, it's a completely different way of thinking. But on to the project, I've been thinking, I don't know how much of this is going to be usable, but I think the third edition of Thompson Chain go out of copyright in a year. Unfortunately, the earliest edition I have is the fourth. I thought I had the third, apparently it's the fourth. So, now I'm still working on the concordance that I've had to back burner it because I was working on some other stuff. Because in order to do the margin notes, I have to have the margin notes prepared, and I figured out a way to put them in the file so that they don't actually do anything until I figure out how I'm going to work with them. So that's what I've been doing. Right now, I have the New Testament, the Minor Prophets, and Genesis and Exodus, where I've reviewed the notes at least enough that they've been checked against actual copy of the KJV. For the New Testament, this was a scan I did a few years ago of the New Testament of an early copy of the Oxford Revere Clarendon. I never finished, but I got the New Testament done. For the old, I have a PDF scan of an edition from 1839, also Oxford. And where this is defective, I'm consulting the Cambridge Clarion from 2011. So, 2011, 2012, I'm not sure exactly. So, I'm basically reviewing the notes against more recent editions and cleaning things up. I know there's going to be some grousing about my typographical choices and about the fact that I've taken a few editorial liberties, but I haven't changed any words, which is different than with the text of the KJV that I used for my previous website, where there were a few words that I actually did tweak, either because I believed them to be printing errors usually. I didn't alter those, and I didn't alter most of the spellings that were still left archaic. But I did do some consistency checking. Now, I'm still debating what I'm going to do for a possible set of book introductions. And what it looks like I might end up doing is some heavy editing of two different sources. One for the Old Testament and one for the New. And try to jive them together so they read like one set. And so they don't read like, well, one of them is High Church Anglican and the other's Roman Catholic. So I have to do some tweaking to get rid of that problem. And I've done it for the New, I haven't done it for the Old yet. For the New Testament, I had decided on the Confraternity New Testaments book introductions, which I've done some editing on. And for the Old, I think I'm going to go with John Wesley's introductions. I'm not planning to include the Apocrypha, although most of the family Bibles that inspired my project did. I may create it as an appendix, a sort of add-on to go in later. But my belief about the Apocrypha is it's bogus It's forged. It's uninspired. It's non-canonical. And shouldn't really be in the Bible at all. If I do put it in, it's not going to be intertestamental like you find in most editions. It's going to be at the very end. After the New Testament. Also, I went through some stuff and decided to take out the word list I was using. But I decided that with some small adjustments, I could continue to use the reading list. Because it turns out that Trinitarian's reading list is just a 2-year version of the McChain list. And all I did was I conformed it to a revision of the same list that someone else mentioned. I believe it's by Don Carson. He just made some minor adjustments to it. And it's almost identical to the TBS list. So that's what I'm using now as a 2-year reading plan. So we'll see how this works. I'm considering putting in some other helps similar to some of the stuff you find in other family Bibles and study Bibles I've seen. There's a lot of them that have the, Christian workers guides and stuff. But I need to find something I can really use because I don't have the skill to write it myself. I might, if this takes longer than I expect, I might be able to quote from F.C. Thompson, but I'd have to make sure that the text I use comes from an edition of Thompson Chain old enough that it's not going to be an issue. So I'm on the lookout for a 1929 Thompson Chain, even as a PDF or something. Just, something I can look at, something I can reference, something I can compare to my 4th, 5th, and 6th editions. And if push comes to shove, I can, I can look at my 5th or 6th editions, which are going to be a lot easier on, either my eyes, if I have to type it out by hand, or on computer cycles if I'm doing OCR. I'm not using the whole Thompson system, of course. I'm already using a different reference system, which is the Treasury of Scripture Knowledge, which it's not as good. It's probably about on the same level as the notes in the Westminster. This is all shaping up to look a lot like the Westminster. Yeah. Also, I'm thinking I might look into putting together, it's kind of hard for me to compile stuff, but maybe the table weights and measures, if I can't use Thompson, I'll try to look into some other, Harmony of the Gospels, Table of Miracles, Prophecies Fulfilled. These are good things to put in the back of a print Bible, and they might be interesting to, stick in the quote-unquote back of this project to see what happens. Until next time, Jesus freak out.